Welcome back, everybody, for another episode of Hoeology Podcast. This is your host, Destiny. I'm sorry that I missed last month, but that's okay because I'm going to give you two episodes this month, including this episode with a very special guest. So, if you can't tell by the title, today's episode is going to be all about sex drives and libido and kind of navigating that as you grow and change through just relationships, sexual partners, etc. As always, we start off with our tweet of the week, which says, I think sexual compatibility is more important than the sex itself. It doesn't matter what type of tricks you're turning in the bedroom if our moods or drives are just not the same. Now, this is something that I really never considered. I never really thought about it before being in a relationship. So I find it interesting that it's become such like a point of conversation in my current relationship or my marriage. And it kind of all relates back to just sex drive and libido. Essentially, sex drive and libido are interchangeable by definition. Both are the desire for sexual activity. I think more recently, what's been affecting my sex drive, I've noticed, is the outside factors. And after doing a little bit of research, I learned that there are a lot of outside factors that can affect sex drive, like your weight, if you smoke, if you have depression, if you have a hormone imbalance. Even medications like birth control can affect sex drive. And the crazy thing is I literally was on birth control pretty much from the time I was like 16 onward. And then only maybe within the last 2 years did I stop using it just because of the adverse effects. In my personal experience, I would say that my sex drive has been just so different through the years, through different partners, things like that. But I don't really know that I paid attention to it or was like conscious of it until I got married. Marrying someone that has a high sex drive has definitely motivated me and also challenged me to be like more of an equal partner. I felt like I not only wanted to be able to match his energy, but also like explore the depths of my own. And so I had to make that transition from the mindset of like, I'm not enough or this is never going to work to, you know what, I'm finally with someone that I can explore my sexuality with and just really embrace that, like the act of exploring it. So it's been challenging, but it's definitely not impossible. But to give you guys a first-hand look at our journey, my journey through this, I have invited someone who has had a front row seat pretty much to the sex drive show, and that's my husband.
Hi, hoes. I'm the husband. I'm glad to be here. First time interviewee. Normally, I'm the one asking her all the questions.
Yes, that is very true, actually. Okay, well, first of all, I really appreciate you being on the show. It means a lot to me because, like I said, this is something that we've had to go through and kind of grow through together. I feel like you don't know what you're walking into usually, like, especially in the way that we got married. It was also new. So, let's kind of do like a backstory. Let's do like a timeline. So before marriage and before dating me, what was your dating like sex life like? Not a trick question.
My dating sex life was kind of like when you are out for yourself, you're single, right, and you have your situationships.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of do what you want. It's like a buffet. I want to have sex right now. I want to have this type of sex right now, or maybe next week. There's a lot of ways that you can kind of create the ultimate selfish experience.
Yeah, it is like a Burger King. Have it your way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say mine was very similar. And I told you this before we got married, or while we were kind of dating, was like, because you asked me like, oh, what turns you on? And I'm like, well, I really never had to think about it because I noticed that I never really got to have sex. I had sex happen to me. And like, I was kind of just there, but I wasn't actively like, this is what I want and I'm going to do this. Like, I wasn't like that, which kind of leads me to think, when you're dating someone, do you really think about your sexual compatibility, or like, does there have to be a change and then you kind of be like, whoa, this is not gonna work out sexually.
I think when you're with someone for like forever and you're in that mindset to be committed, you need to understand that not only do you need to keep yourself in mind, but your partner is now a priority and a value that you need to keep up there as well.
Yeah, but like, do you think people talk about sexual compatibilities when they're dating?
Oh, and when they're dating, I think maybe they'll have like light conversations, but I don't think that they understand that they might change in time.
Yeah, that's true. I personally think not enough people have enough conversations about sexual compatibility. I know I damn sure didn't. But I think you're right. Like, you have to also understand that it's going to change. So, when would you say that you noticed that our sex drives were different?
Near the beginning, I think we ended up having conversations like that.
Yeah. I think like the first time that we had sex, I was like, wow, this was like probably the best sex I've literally ever had.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I was so nervous.
I know you were.
Even though I said I wasn't, I admit it.
Yeah, I probably like, I kind of conned him out of sex. I was like, oh, I have a headache. I'm just gonna lay down. And I laid my way down into them drawers.
I was covering my face. I don't do this.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, early on for me too, I was like, whoa, this is a lot. And I'm one of those people that like, I will adapt to what my partner needs when it comes to like sexuality. In my previous relationship before you, like, he never wanted to explore anything outside of like just traditional sex, I'll say. So like, even going down on me, like, I could probably count on one hand like the amount of times that he did, but like, it was always, he wanted everything reciprocated to him. So I would say like, I didn't really notice anything in our sex drive because I just adapted so quickly to him. But with you, I was like, oh, I'm gonna try to keep up. And then I was like, girl, this is not healthy. Like, you know, this is not equal if it's only me adapting to you. And I think then you were like, oh, I'll just meet you halfway then. Like, you were very quick to be receptive to that. So like, if you feel like someone has a different sex drive, or like, what would you say that even looks like? Like, is it more so like frequency, or, you know, just...
So I'd say that, you know, in the interactions I've had before, it could be frequency and type and style.
Yeah.
You never know. Like, some people might be like, I want it rough, and that could be a sexual difference that you and your partner have.
True. Yeah.
Or someone might want it a little bit more sweet. It doesn't have to be so far just numbers, like frequency all the time.
Yeah. So before marriage, you had mentioned you wanted a fluid kind of sex life or sexual compatibility with your partner, right?
Yes, I did. I know that I didn't want, you know, you read the horror stories of like dead bedrooms.
Yeah, that Reddit thread.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like, but I feel like, again, people just aren't having like this type of conversation and conversations in their relationships.
They're not prioritizing pleasure either.
Yeah. I know I didn't, and I think you made me realize that I didn't prioritize my own, like I was doing it for my partners.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, thank you for that. And you definitely encouraged that. So kind of going like back to, you know, the fluidity of like having different types of sex and all of that, like the frequency, like you were saying, the different parts of a sex drive. I think it's important to note too that like, for me, what changed my sex drive, like for a little bit time period of like negative, was just like other factors in our life that caused me to not be able to like fully be in that mindset, like a sexual, like a sex goddess, sex mode, like I'm ready to fuck, like, which was, you know, the outside factors. Like, if I'm worried about, you know, are we going to be able to pay this bill, which has never been an issue for us, but this is just an example. But are we going to be able to pay this bill this month? I'm not going to feel sexy. Like, if I'm worried about, we have, you know, 10 different events coming up in the next couple weeks, what are we going to do? Like, I'm not going to be in that sexual mode. And I think a lot of women function that way. Like, we can't turn our brains off to be sexual and to be, you know, in a sex mode or sex mood if other factors around us are taking, priority to that pleasure, like you were saying.
Well, we had a real life example with buying the house.
Oh my God.
When we first moved
Yes.
in, geez,
it was one thing after another.
The color of the walls were all wrong. We had to upgrade the fridge, the stove,
the
floors, the couches. Those were a little delivered late.
I was uncomfortable in our home.
Exactly.
Our brand new home. I was very uncomfortable. And so it was like a no-go for me. Like, I can't even sleep half the time, because I'm uncomfortable in this environment. So no, I don't want to have sex. And then we started to have like arguments about it. We had conversations about it. We talked to our marital counselor about it. Like, it was very real. Like, the sex was like non-existent for a little bit there.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that's why, as we start to get settled in more and more, me understanding and giving you grace of saying like, well, where are the factors that are playing a part in your world that I may not recognize?
Yeah.
And then understanding like, well, now we have the walls painted. Mm-hmm. Now we have the floors done, and things are looking better.
Yeah, I think you definitely, like I said, met me where I was, like, and gave me that space to be like, okay, I can take a deep breath. I have a partner in this. Like, I can let go. So that definitely helped because, those, like I said, those different factors lead to so many other things, like, in addition to not wanting to have sex, but then it affects like even the frequency of sex, which is such a conversation. Like, on Housewives, I love the Real Housewives, and I was watching, and Larsa Pippen was like, oh, when I was married to Scotty, I had sex 4 times a night every day for 27 years. And I'm like, first of all, bitch, you're lying, because what about your period? I don't even want to be touched on day 1 of my fucking period. So I know she's fucking lying. But regardless, I'm like, damn. Am I just the anomaly here? Like, am I wrong for not having sex 4 times a night? Like, what the hell?
That's the thing. Everyone's different. There's guys out there who don't want to have sex.
Yeah.
And they paint guys as like always wanting sex. If a guy says no to sex, there's something wrong with him. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. Whatever works for you, that's for you. Like, a lot of times, just don't compare yourselves to other individuals and what they're saying they're doing. And if you're happy and you're content with your situation, rock with it.
Yeah. I think that's like another point of like just contingency is when you're going to be talking to like other people about how much they're having sex or the types of sex that they're having or etc. Like, listen, but don't maybe absorb. Like, listen to what they're saying. If they want advice, give them your 2 cents. But also remember, like, we all live a different 24 hours. Like, for talking to our friend groups about sex, I think there's definitely, like, a positive side. I think there's a negative side. The positive side is you learn. Like, there might be something that you didn't know fucking existed, and suddenly you're interested in it, right? Or you're at least curious about it. And the negative side is like subconsciously you're going to want to compare yourself. You're going to want to be like, well, maybe we should do this because our friends are doing it. And it's like, again, everybody got different 24 hours. So don't worry about what they're doing in their bedroom. Just focus on, improving and growing yours.
There's a reason why the whole phrase keeping up with the Joneses is a thing.
Yeah, I don't know where that originated from though.
Me neither.
Yeah. So have you had like an experience where you were maybe talking to some friends about things going on in your bedroom and they just either were not receptive, they didn't understand, or they maybe were and they were like, oh, this is awesome?
Yes. So when we went out to Caliente, shout out to the nudist resort, we, I believe I told some friends about it, and I have some friends who are open sexually and some who are more traditional. And I think my friend group is like, oh yeah, good for you. Whatever works for you, works for you. But I one of them seemed to be surprised that I was going. Mm-hmm. And I remember having the conversation with him and be like, why not? And I think that was the most of it. But generally, I say everyone's pretty accepting.
Yeah. I obviously posted about it on TikTok and Hoeology Instagram. But My friends are a little bit more open about their sexuality, open about like their sexual experiences. So them finding out that I went to this like nudist resort was not like shocking in the least. Like they were like, "Oh, great, you finally went. Like you caught up to us." But there have been times where I have spoken about, wanting to do something sexually or whatever, and it being received negatively. So I think, keeping your own bedroom to within your bedroom, but also feeling safe, like feeling like you have a safe space to ask questions and to like explore is important to have outside of just your partner, so.
I agree. There definitely can be groups and spaces for conversations like that to be had, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, it might not be sometimes your friends.
True. I think a lot of time what it falls down to is people get into those quote unquote dead bedrooms and suddenly we need to spice it up. Like we need to, that's the phrase they go to. Just spice it up, try something crazy new, like off the fucking charts. And it's like you've never even done anything outside of missionary sex and now you're wanting to go full peg mode. Like, no, that's not how it works. That's not healthy. Like you have to gradually, get into it. Like what the hell does spicing it up even mean? I say it like jokingly, like, oh, if you want to spice things up, like, but I think it's just like a filler sentence. Like, if you want to spice it up, then what? Because it's subjective.
I think it's a Hail Mary attempt for like shocking the relationship into something.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Because the basics need to be strong. Your foundation's got to be well built.
Mhm.
If I don't enjoy kissing you, why am I gonna enjoy doing something even crazy with you?
Yeah. Because then I feel like that leads to you being just utterly overwhelmed, and now you've kind of put yourself in a predicament because you wanted to go all out, and you know.
Pretty much. I've heard so many stories of people trying threesomes to save their relationship.
Oh my god, that's a big one.
Oh, we're having problems. Oh my god, do you want to have a baby or do you want to have a threesome?
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
No, I think that's literally though a perfect example of how not to spice it up.
Yeah.
Of how to like just chill the fuck out. I think instead of spicing it up, like what we decided to do was set like short-term goals, as far as well, what I decided to do, because again, I felt like I wasn't an equal partner in our marriage sexuality. So I decided to set short-term goals, which was initiating sex. That's a big one. I again never really had to initiate sex, and that's a conversation that you and I had. Was like, you never really make the first move, and I'm like, I never had to, which is crazy, to think about. But I don't want you to feel like you're always having to initiate sex. So it's kind of like a game now. Like I have fun with it. I'm like, ooh, how can I do it? Now it might take me 14 hours to work up the courage, but I am trying and I'm doing it. Like to show, that I can do this too. And to show myself.
I see you trying, and I gotta say it I like seeing you try, and then I like try to be a little coy with it. And I see you get frustrated. I'm just like, I love the fact that she's trying.
Yeah. And like, going back all the way to the beginning of like discovering what turns Destiny on. Not, I'm turning on this guy and I'm just gonna go with that. Because what does that do for Destiny?
Exactly. It should be mutual pleasure, and it's an experience that you can enjoy with your partner, and there's different. Everything doesn't always have to end in penetration.
Yeah.
Us having conversation of like what turns me on, and me just exploring that side a little bit more, and you helping me with other things. Like when we read the novel together.
Oh yeah, we read shout out to Kima B. We read her book together. It's like a erotic kind of story.
I love that. And that was something new to me.
Yeah. We literally laid in bed and I read it out loud. I haven't read out loud in a minute. but yeah, that was another form of intimacy.
Yes.
I think a lot of people forget that intimacy is, like you love to say, it's more than just sex. Because it is.
Say it all the time. Going out with you, laughing, joking, holding hands, watching TV, cracking jokes, people watching, all the things that we love to do that we get to do together.
Yeah. So I had actually another short-term goal, which was to feel uncomfortable and like the unknown. Like we're kind of still exploring this. We're working on it actively. But, you know, when we did the body mapping, for example, which there's a video, I don't know if you've seen it going around where a girl is, I'll have to show it to you. She's talking about how she'll start off by kissing, and then she'll start off by licking, and then she'll do the combination where you kind of kiss and gently suck, and she'll do that all around his body. That's body mapping, people. It's not brand new. She's not the first woman to do it, but she's the first woman, I'd say, to go viral for talking about it and getting the niggas that were on the podcast. She got them hot and heavy, like real quick. They were like, "Oh, that's what you do? Show us again." Like thirsty ass. But
and that's the thing too. Guys got to be more comfortable with foreplay as well.
Oh
like,
yes.
They don't like. I think guys know this, but it might not be an open conversation. But like we get hard to different levels.
Yeah. What is that about? But yeah. So that's also, I guess, a third goal, which is discovering not only what turns me on, what turns you on, but what turns like us on as a couple. So
Yes.
like I think the body mapping did a great job of that. So while it was uncomfortable for me because again it was new territory, like I'm like, what the fuck is this? But that's only because I've been conditioned sexually to only just stick to the basics. Even though I wanted to do other shit, like I did a little bit of exploring with BDSM, which you know about in a previous relationship, but nothing to like the extent of I want to go to a nudist resort and just lay out and see what it's about. And I might want to go back because we had a great experience, you know, and not being met with that shit is weird. Like, what the fuck? That's weird. Like, you know what I mean?
Right, and getting creative with how you approach things. A lot of times we just fall into routine, and I think we do a great job of keeping things new, but also like in a comfortable setting.
Yeah, I think so too. I overall just think like while your sex drive can change, it can go up and down. It can, you know, be hot and heavy one day. It could be, please don't even look my direction the other day. Like, I think being comfortable in knowing that if you're married, at least, like, this is going to be your person. Like, if you're dating, it's okay to, like, still explore around. Maybe that person is not your person, but if you've married this person, like, explore it. Like, be open to it. Have those conversations. And just don't be afraid to be, like, different than what you're hearing. Because I think a lot of people hear what people say online or what people write about, and it's not always true. It's inflated heavily.
Right, and being intentional with your actions by setting goals like you have. So my goals are pretty similar to yours, where it's again meeting you halfway. Of I understand if where you're trying to be uncomfortable in the situation, but let me take care of some of the outside factors so that you have the mental space to do so. And I think that we've been doing an excellent job in meeting those goals.
Yeah. Well, I think this was a really good, healthy conversation. If you're struggling with your sex drive, your libido, check the outside factors first. Don't be afraid to talk to each other. Set goals. Follow through on those goals. Put effort in, and don't compare yourselves to anything else, anybody else. Like, your path is going to be your own. Fun fact, Hoeology will be at Charlemagne the God's The Black Effect Podcast Festival in Atlanta on the 22nd of April. So please, if you see me, or you probably don't even know what I look like, but listen for my voice and find me. I will also be at Sex Down South this year, which is, I think, in September. I'm trying to get a media pass, so spam their page and tell them to let me in. But is there anything else you want to say, honey?
No, I think you wrapped it up beautifully.
All right. Well, as always, happy hoeing.